she has the chance to start over, and I hope she can.
Emotionally and mentally abusive.
You may recall that those individuals...
He killed his baby.
20-year-old Katie Pladl.
Incestuous relationship with their biological daughter.
The story begins when an adopted young woman named Katie decides to reconnect with her biological parents, hoping for a meaningful relationship. However, this decision turns out to be the worst choice of her life, leading to a series of tragic events. Years ago, in 1995, a young man named Steven Pladl met 15-year-old Alyssa online. Despite Alyssa being underage, Steven traveled from New York to Texas to meet her. Alyssa's parents allowed their relationship, and by the time she was 17, Alyssa gave birth to their daughter, Denise. However, their happiness was short-lived as Steven began to show abusive behavior. Alyssa saw Steven pinch their baby hard enough to leave bruises and even trap her in a cooler until she was almost out of breath. These were just some of the ways he hurt their daughter. Alyssa was very worried about her daughter Denise's safety and future, so she made a hard decision to give her up for adoption when Denise was only 8 months old. Even though this choice broke Alyssa's heart, she believed it was the best way to ensure her daughter had a better and safer life. Denise was then adopted by a kind and caring couple named Anthony and Kelly Fusco. They renamed her Katie and raised her in Dover, New York. Anthony and Kelly treated Katie like their own daughter and gave her a loving, supportive home. While Katie was growing up, Alyssa stayed with Steven, and they had 2 more daughters together. However, Steven's behavior continued to be unpredictable and scary. He would often get angry, breaking things and punching holes in the walls during arguments. This created an environment of fear for Alyssa and their daughters. Steven struggled to keep a job, so Alyssa had to work to support the family. She described life with Steven as constantly stressful, like always being careful not to upset him. When Katie turned 18, she felt it was the right time to search for her biological parents. With curiosity and hope, she reached out to them through social media, eager to know more about where she came from and to see if they wanted to reconnect. To her joy, her biological parents, Steven and Alyssa, responded warmly and were thrilled to hear from her. They welcomed the chance to get to know their daughter again after so many years. Katie was so excited by their response that she made a big decision. She would move to Virginia to live with Steven, Alyssa, and her 2 younger sisters. This was a huge step for Katie, as it meant putting her college plans on hold to focus on building a relationship with her biological family and adjusting to a new chapter in her life. Katie's adoptive parents, who had raised and loved her all these years, felt worried about her decision. They were concerned about what this change might mean for her future and whether she would be happy. Katie's arrival created even more problems for Steven and Alyssa, who were already having a tough time with their relationship. Before Katie came into the picture, Steven and Alyssa's relationship was already strained. They were facing issues and struggling to find a way to fix them. However, when Katie showed up, everything became even harder for them. Steven started feeling a lot of pressure, and this began to show in how he acted. He changed his behavior, becoming more concerned with how he looked and what others thought of him. He even shaved off his beard and bought new clothes to look younger and more appealing. This wasn't just about wanting a new look. It was obvious that Steven was trying to impress someone. Alyssa quickly noticed that Steven's attention was shifting and that he was getting closer to Katie. These changes weren't subtle. Alyssa could see Steven's behavior changing more and more each day. He started paying less attention to her and their problems, focusing instead on Katie. Alyssa felt hurt and frustrated as she watched Steven's efforts to make himself more appealing. Alyssa started to feel more and more anxious when she saw Steven spending a lot of time with Katie. It wasn't just the fact that he was wearing new clothes or acting differently that worried her. It was how he behaved when he was around Katie. Alyssa could see that Steven seemed more excited and engaged whenever he was with Katie, and this made her very uneasy. She couldn't shake the feeling that there might be something more than just friendship between them, and this thought stressed her out. Alyssa felt torn. On one hand, she cared deeply for Steven and didn't want to lose him. The idea of him being interested in someone else made her heart sink. On the other hand, she knew she had to protect herself and her emotions. In her attempt to protect herself and to warn Katie, Alyssa decided to share something very personal with her. She told Katie about the abuse she suffered as a baby, something she had kept hidden for a long time. Alyssa didn't want to keep this secret anymore, especially because she felt that Katie might not fully understand the complexities of her relationship with Steven. The seemingly ordinary life of the Russell family took a dark turn when Steven Russell, a 40-year-old man, developed an obsessive and disturbing affection for his teenage daughter, Katie. As their relationship deepened into a horrific love affair, the family was torn apart by incest and betrayal. The situation escalated when Steven began sleeping in Katie's room. Alyssa, Katie's mother, became increasingly concerned and confronted Steven, who reacted angrily. It soon became clear that Steven and Katie had fallen deeply in love, a love that was both unnatural and illegal. In November 2016, Alyssa filed for divorce from Steven, gaining custody of their 2 younger daughters, while Katie remained with her father. The couple continued their incestuous relationship, their love growing stronger despite the moral and legal implications. The shocking truth came to light in May 2017, when Alyssa discovered a disturbing journal entry written by her 11-year-old daughter. The child revealed that Katie was pregnant and that Steven and Katie considered themselves a couple. The child's innocent words painted a horrifying picture of the family's twisted reality. Devastated and horrified, Alyssa confronted Steven, who shockingly admitted to their love. She reported the incestuous relationship to the police, but despite the severity of the crime, neither Steven nor Katie were arrested. In a chilling twist, Steven and Katie married in Maryland in July 2017, lying about their relationship to legalize their union. The wedding was attended by Steven's mother and Katie's adoptive parents, who, despite their shock and disgust, chose to support their daughter. In September 2017, Katie and Steven had their first child, a baby boy named Bennett. They were excited to be new parents, but their happiness didn't last long. Just 4 months later, in January, the police arrested both of them and took them back to Virginia. The authorities ran DNA tests to confirm if they were related, and soon after, both Katie and Steven faced charges of incest, adultery, and contributing to delinquency. In court, Steven's lawyer explained that the situation was complicated. Katie, who was 18, met Steven, who was 40, during a tough period in his life. Even though they were related by blood, they hadn't known each other before starting a relationship. Steven had fallen deeply in love with Katie, which made him overlook the fact that they were biologically related. Steven was let out of jail on bail, but there were strict rules he had to follow. He wasn't allowed to leave Virginia, and he couldn't have any contact with Katie. However, the court did allow him to see his son Bennett. Bennett was placed in the care of Steven's 72-year-old mother, Grace. This decision made Steven's ex-wife, Alyssa, very anxious. She thought it was a big mistake because she felt that Grace, being elderly, wouldn't be able to stop Steven if he tried to get close to the baby. Katie was also released on bail and was ordered not to contact Steven. She returned to New York to live with her adoptive parents. However, Katie broke the no-contact order by calling Steven and telling him she wanted to end their relationship. This news devastated Steven, who felt like he had lost everything. On April 11, 2018, Steven went to his mother's house, claiming he was taking Bennett to see Katie in New York. Grace let him take the baby, not knowing this would be fatal. Steven drove Bennett to his home in North Carolina, where he tragically strangled his son and left his body in a closet. After this, Steven drove a long 600 miles to New York because he wanted to confront Katie face to face. He was determined and didn't stop until he reached the area. Early the next morning, he parked his car outside Katie's adoptive parents' house and waited for her to come out. A short time later, Katie came out of the house with her adoptive father, Anthony. They walked together to their truck, got inside, and began driving away. Little did they know that Steven, who had been secretly watching their movements, was following closely behind in his car. Steven's eyes were fixed on them, and he was waiting for the right moment to make his move. As Katie and Anthony drove, they probably felt safe and unaware of any danger. Eventually, they reached their destination and came to a stop. Just then, Steven pulled his car up right beside their truck. Before they could react or understand what was happening, Steven suddenly took out a gun and started shooting at them. The attack was unexpected and gave them no chance to defend themselves or escape. The shooting was over in a matter of moments, but it was devastating. The sudden burst of violence left both Katie and Anthony with fatal injuries. Sadly, they both died as a result of Steven's attack. An off-duty firefighter who witnessed the shooting called 911 to report the tragic scene.
911, what's the location of your emergency?
Hello, this is Connecticut. It's on Route 7 and Route 55. Someone just went by and shot this guy in the truck.
Somebody just shot somebody in a truck on Route 55, sir?
Yes, right at the beginning of Route 55 and Route 7. It just happened. I'm a fireman out of New York. The car pulled up, went around him, shot him. Whole clip full into his head.
Okay, sorry. Is you still with him?
We're here at the road.
Where? Right at the intersection?
Yes, sir, right at the intersection.
Okay, sir.
He's deceased, boss. The truck's in the middle of the road.
He's dead?
Yes, sir. Brains are on the road.
And he was shot. Did you see the person who shot him?
Yeah, we pulled up. There's a whole, yes.
Okay, which way did the vehicle go?
Headed toward New Milford, down Route 7.
Down Route 7? Can you describe the vehicle to me?
It's a blue minivan with, I believe, a South Carolina plate.
Blue minivan, South Carolina plate?
Yes, sir. A light blue minivan.
Okay, sir, just stay on the line with me.
Shortly after, Steven's mother, Grace, called 911 to tell them Steven had confessed to killing Katie, her father, and their baby.
He killed his baby, and he's in the house.
Okay, you said that he told you he killed his baby? Okay, ma'am, listen to me. What's your name?
Police found Steven's minivan a few miles from the scene where he had shot himself. He was found lifeless in the driver's seat. Steven's ex-wife, Alyssa, thought back on everything that had happened, which was full of tragedy and loss. She felt deep sadness and pain over the deaths of Katie, who was like family, her adoptive father, who had always been there for her, and the baby, whose life was cut short before it even began. These losses weighed heavily on her heart, and the grief was overwhelming. At the same time, Alyssa couldn't help but feel a sense of relief mixed with her sadness. For the first time in a long while, she realized that she no longer had to live with the constant fear of Steven and what he might do. The danger and threat he brought into her life were now over. This gave her a chance to find peace and rebuild her life without the shadow of fear hanging over her. Though she was filled with sorrow, she knew she was finally free from the fear that had controlled her for so long. The story of Katie and Steven is a chilling reminder of the destructive power of unchecked obsession and the tragic consequences of familial abuse. This tale of love, betrayal, and ultimate destruction serves as a stark warning about the dangers of ignoring warning signs and the importance of seeking help when needed. As we reflect on this heartbreaking narrative, let us hope that such a tragedy never repeats itself.